want to give you a warm welcome here, and it's Vikas Chopra. I'm just double checking on where we left off from with regards to our last program. So it's Vikas Chopra here, Training for Development, and I just want to say, give you a warm welcome, to say thank you very much to listening into the program. Apparently, I'm just double checking on the sound because I had some sound issues on the last program, so I'd like to apologise for that. Just double checking everything's okay, and it seems as if it is. Which is great. Now, what I want to say is today we're going to start changing our program on a Saturday. So from a Friday, I'm going to start programming. My Friday program is going to change to a Saturday, and the Wednesday program is going to remain the same. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're planning to do. Today, we're talking about we're going to be talking about first aid for mental health. That's the conversation today. That's what we need to talk about. First aid is very, very high on the agenda with regards to people suffering. So we're going to talk a little bit about first aid for mental health. And those of you that haven't seen me on a Saturday, I'm going to say to you, give you a warm welcome for tuning in. The program every Saturday at 1 o'clock will be training for employment and personal development with Vikas Chopra, and that's me. And I'll be going through a list of options that you have available to yourself with regards to personal development and training for free. So it's a program that's well worth listening into. And I've had some good feedback from various customers that have asked me about programs available in the local area, programs available for people in the West Midlands areas, and programs available to develop you. And I'll talk about its applicability. But today, on the last program I did, I had some issues with the sound, so I apologise for that. And I want to cover what I didn't cover on the last program. So training for development and personal development and employment. That is the name of the program. Every Saturday at 1 p.m. we'll be here. Vikas Chopra, my email address is excellencetrain@outlook.com. So if you want to contact me, or if you want to give me some feedback, that's fine as well. If you want to give me some feedback with regards to how you think the program's going, that's fine as well too. So, coming to today's session, who we are. We're all about training. We're all about personal development. My question to you, good afternoon. Are you all about development? Do you think about doing things, any kind of tasks that you might have a little bit more easier? Are you into doing things a bit more tactfully? Do you reevaluate and self-examine how you perform daily tasks to make your life a bit more easier? Well, that's what this program is kind of all about, to make you think about the way you're doing things, to make you think about your personal development, to make you think about your training. So that's what we're all about. It's excellence training. We do coaching, training and recruitment, and we help people back to work. We work with employers, but today we are going to be talking about mental health first aid. Mental health first aid is an invaluable subject area. Yes, we are living in the COVID time period. Yes, there are a lot of people affected by what's going on. And yes, there is additional support needed for individuals that may be suffering or people that may be finding things a little bit difficult. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to give some pointers out on specifics. Now, in the past few programs, I've talked about first aid for mental health in the past, and I've noticed that I know that I haven't got into content. So today will be one of those days where I'm going to start going into some content of what you're going to find on the program. I'm going to go into some content with in connection with signs and symptoms of what we can look for and how we can potentially help other people that have issues with mental health first aid. Now, so what I'm going to say is, if you decide to come on this program, and it is absolutely free if you decide to come on the program, and if you decide to contact me, it's Vikas on 07932 604 705. If you are from the West Midlands areas and you want to do this program for absolutely free, no charge whatsoever, you can get in touch with me. Either leave me a message in the box, or you can contact me on the number that I've given, and I will post it out a bit later on as well. So you are welcome to sort of come on a free program here. So what we generally cover on the mental health first aid program is I'll go through some of the outcomes that and modules that we're going to be covering. Not today all in all, but we will be covering. So we'll be covering what is first aid for mental health. People think about the word first aid. People think about the word mental health. What is first aid for mental health? Well, do you know what a first aider is? Well, it's a mental health first aider we're talking about here. Someone that is responsible within your organization for one's mental health. We'll be covering elements on what that specifically means on the course program. We will be looking at identification of certain mental health conditions that you need to be aware of in the workplace so you can support your colleagues. We'll be looking at maybe in the past you've had some kind of difficulty talking to someone, maybe having a difficult conversation with someone that is suffering or someone that is struggling. We'll be looking at, on the program, if you come on this program, you will learn how to have the difficult conversation. We will do a role play to make sure you completely understand what mental health first aid is all about, so that you can learn to have that difficult conversation and support the people that you need to support. We'll also be looking at stress. What is stress? What's the definition of stress? Well, the truth is, most people don't know what it is. All right. We'll be looking at drugs and alcohol and their impacts on mental health. We'll be looking at a mental health first aid action plan. If you are an employer and you want to implement that within your organization, we'll be talking about that mental health first aid action plan that you can make. And we're talking about generically mental health in the workplace. And that's what we're going to cover on this course. And also it'll help you to notice things. It's going to help you to, this course program is going to help you to notice maybe certain aspects of behaviors that you hadn't thought about before. Maybe certain types of signs and symptoms, make you more prepared to be able to deal with those. All right, so my question to you is, how can you become aware of more mental health issues? How can you become more aware of it? Now, there was a scenario where a worker had said, he emailed a group and said, this is the last time you're going to see me. This is the last time you're going to see me, and I know, he said, I know you all hate me. Does that sound familiar? By the way, aren't we good at creating a lot of rubbish in our heads? Yeah? Aren't we good at creating stuff like this? I know he doesn't like me. I know this guy hates me. I know the manager doesn't like the way I work. I just don't get on with him because he doesn't like me, hence I don't. How do you know? My question to you is, how do you know? Now, don't we sometimes claim to know someone's feelings when we don't really know them? And how much of an impact does that have on your thinking faculties? So anyway, this young man who I'm talking about, he had 2 children. He's only young. He said, "This is the last time you're going to see me." I don't need to say too much about that, but this young man did go on to taking his own life. And the fact of the matter was, he was going through a minor disciplinary. So hence, thinking about mental health first aid and how serious it is, thinking about suicides, etc., and how serious they are, thinking about sometimes, we might be thinking something's a joke, we're having a laugh and a joke with someone, they might take it really, really seriously. So my conversation to you is just be aware of what you're doing and saying with your words and actions in the workplace. Excuse me. Another young man that I used to work with, well, this young man that I worked with in the past, all of a sudden I hear that he's taken his own life. That's what's actually happened. Trying to find out what's actually happened. And one of his friends turned around and said he lived on the inside. He lived on the inside. How many of us sometimes live on the inside? How many people do you really know? How many people do you think you really know? I really know what goes on the inside. Please consider, yeah? Another scenario where he rang two people on that day, his sister and he rang somebody else. On that day he made the phone call. He made the phone call for support. He made the phone call for help. But guess what happened? None of them answered. What did he do? It's a foregone conclusion. He took his own life. So in terms of mental health first aid, I'm going to go through some aspects of and factors that we can look at that can affect a person's mental health. Now I'm going to say to you, do you know what they are? What do you think can affect someone's mental health? What do you think affects someone's mental health? You tell me. If you know the answer to that question, I'm going to go through it, but I want you to tell me what can affect someone's mental health. What affects people? All right? What affects you on a daily basis? I'm going to go through a few things here. Abuse. Abuse is a big thing. Emotional abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse can affect someone's mental health. Trauma. Certain types of traumas can affect someone's mental health. What kind of trauma has this person gone through? You know, I met somebody over in Wales when I was delivering and we were doing first aid, and he'd killed 3-4 people. They run them over. He skidded. And he was on that course. He was struggling to do CPR. He was struggling to do CPR. All because of what he'd gone through. So trauma, neglect, loneliness is a big thing. Loneliness. How many people do you know that might be a bit lonely? Do you check up on them? I know people are going around giving meals to people. Are they doing welfare checks though? Are we making sure that people are being looked after? Are we doing our duty? I mean, some people say sometimes, I don't even know what my calling is. What is your calling? What do you think your calling is? What have you been called to do on the earth? And I'll say to you, if you see something that impacts you, if you see something that affects you, if you see someone in distress, if you see someone that needs support, I will tell you very clearly, your calling is to support that person, because you can say, God has shown it you, You can say somebody's shown it you. You've seen something where someone is in distress. It is your calling and your moral duty of care to make sure these people get the support. So loneliness is a big thing. Discrimination. People going to hospital because they've become ill, fighting court cases with their employers because of discrimination. Poverty. Debt. Bereavement. Yes, we're in the COVID time period. Stress. Fear. Fear causes stress. Fear kills. Fear changes your internal biochemical reactions. Divorce. Bullying behavior affects mental health. Alcohol abuse is another one. Drug abuse is another one. So these aspects here, they all affect a person's mental health, and there's probably a lot more that go along with it. Life experiences can affect your mental health. Things that you go through in life can affect your mental health. So just to make you aware that these are some factors that you need to be aware of with regards to a person's mental health. I was speaking to someone the other day, and they were very, very nasty towards me. And it was someone that I know, and it's not their usual behaviour. Not their usual behaviour. So I decided to ask them if they were okay. Now they were particularly nasty to me, which is fine. I took it on the chin, but I knew that they were upset, and the reason or the way I knew that they were upset was because they don't normally behave like this, not with me. So I had to beg the question, are you okay? And guess what? If you ask the right question at the right time to the right person, guess what happens? They open up like a book. This person opened up. This person told me what they were going through. And there wasn't just one issue going on, it was multiple issues. And how does it feel at times when you are going through multiple issues and things are very, very difficult and they all climb on top of you? Excuse me. They all climb on top of you. So you need to be aware that when you're talking to someone and when they're displaying certain type of behaviours, why they are displaying those behaviours, and how can you reach them? I always say to myself, how can I reach people more effectively? How can I get through to this person? How can I penetrate their mind and give them some sort of support? How can I start the healing process with this person? Those are the types of questions I ask. And it's good to ask those questions because I say when people are upset, there's a reason. If their behaviour is really out of character, why don't you ask them, are you okay? Are you okay? Because you don't normally behave like this. And if you ask it in the right and correct way, if you ask it in a very empathetic way, you will get through to the person. And that's the whole idea of it, yeah? So, now what I want to just pull back a little bit, I want to say ask you a few questions. Are you an employer? Number one. I only ask these questions on every session. Are you an employer? Number one. Are you an employee that needs support for your workforce? If so, give us a call, contact us, we will give you support. We will give you the training you need. If you're from the West Midlands areas, you get it for free. Are you employed with an organisation in need of? Do you know if you're an employer or if you're employed, do you know your nominated mental health first aider? Do you know who they are? now more than ever, within your workforce, do you know your nominated mental health first aider? Someone that is approachable, someone that you can go to, someone that you can communicate with and get through to. Do you know who they are? If you're experiencing distress, trauma, or any of the following that I mentioned prior, and you're suffering, do you know who you can talk to within your organization? Alternatively speaking, do you have someone to talk to? And if you do want to have someone in that's non-judgmental and you want to talk to me, my number 07932604705. If I can help you, I will. Okay. Are you unemployed, looking to self-develop yourself and put yourself in a position where you can better impact people, and you're unemployed? Well, you want to do this qualification to help other people, then by all means. All right, so we're going to be talking about someone that maybe, we've gone through a couple of other things with what can affect a person's mental health. We're going to go through the signs and symptoms. Some people do not know what stress is. The signs and symptoms of stress. What are they? And how to recognize them. How to recognize when someone is under stress. Or what do you go through if you're going through stress? What happens to your body? What happens to you? And we're going to talk through some of these things that you can learn to identify so you can help people that are experiencing mental health problems. So hyperventilation is one. When the breathing goes out. When they can't breathe and they start to overheat. Breathing affects your breathing, hyperventilation, gasping for more air, etc. Muscle tension, the person's very, very tense. Sometimes you can just look at a person and you can see how tense they are. What about tiredness? And why would they be tired? Maybe because they're thinking about the same thing over and over again and they can't sleep at night. What about headaches? When something really gets to you and it's stuck in your head, it will cause you to have a headache. Now, some years ago when I was working for an organisation, they did an audit and they expected me to look after all these files. And the audit was the next day, and they threw 25 files at me, and they needed enormous amounts of information in them. So what did I do? I went downstairs and spoke to the guy in the motor mechanics department. I was in the employability department. And he goes, "What's the matter, Vic?" He said, "What's the matter, Vikas? You don't seem yourself." I said, "They just dumped all these files on me." And I said, "I've got some chest pains." Because I was that stressed in that work environment, I'd started to develop chest pains. And the motor mechanics tutor made me a cup of tea and he says, "I wouldn't even worry about that. The first thing that you need to concentrate on, Vikas, is your health. Have this cup of tea and don't worry about it. If they need to get their audits done by tomorrow, they'll have to do that. It's not your problem because you've inherited the files." So that was a work-based situation where I was struggling. Feeling dizzy or sick can be another thing. Now, everybody manifests symptoms of stress in a different way. We've got to remember that, okay? So these are just some convenient ones that we're looking at. Nail biting. Sometimes you've only got to look at someone else's nails. Picking at clothing. Inability. This person has the inability to concentrate. Eating too much or little, so developing some kind of food disorder. Excessive smoking, alcohol, restlessness, or someone may even just start to cry And I remember when we were in the classroom once and the young lady says, I know how that feels, and she just became totally and utterly tearful. So we're thinking about some of these signs and symptoms of stress. But above all, what I want you to do is learn to pay attention and become a good reader of body language. Become an excellent reader of body language so you can study people. That's what you need to learn to do. Become an excellent reader of body language. And that way you will know when something is wrong and you can ask the right questions to get the support there. And sometimes it doesn't mean that you need to tell them or give them advice when you're talking to people. It just means being there and listening to what they're saying very, very carefully. Now, this course that you come on with me will help you because we go through some scenarios. This course will help you to become a lot more aware. It will help you to look at someone a little bit different. It will help you not to judge the person, but to possibly perceive. You'll become a perceptive person. You'll become a perceptive person so you can perceive exactly what's going on. You can look at the situation not with one perception. Someone said to me the other day, I'm looking at it from a different angle. I look at it different to you. Well, I look at things with hindsight. Start to look at the situation with hindsight so you've got the bird's eye view. And if you've got the bird's eye view and you're looking down, what's going to happen? You're going to get the full picture. You can see exactly what's going on. If you've got that eagle's view and you're looking down on a situation, if you're stuck in the situation, you're going to look at it slightly different. So that opens up new neurological pathways when you start to look at things with a different viewpoint. So I want to urge you to learn to develop that art or that skill. All right, now, quick question. Do you need support with your English? Do you need specific mentoring for anything? Do you want to help others and put yourself out there? Well, this qualification is one of those qualifications that you can do. You can get in touch with me, 07932604705. My email is excellencetrainer@outlook.com. We're always up for feedback, so if you want to contact me or come on the show, let me say something to you. If you've got a great story or if you've got something you want to tell others, I'm happy to have you on the show with me. You know, come on the show and you can maybe talk about your experience. But obviously with the COVID situation, we haven't opened things up fully at Country Radio. But in the future, maybe it's something to bear in mind that you want to maybe get through or tell someone something inspirational. Now, if you have a story, what should you do with the story? You should share it, especially if it empowers other people. All right. So, now I want to go through some other elements, some program that you're going to come to. Alcohol and drugs. Alcohol and drugs. How can they have a negative impact on someone's mental health? Alcohol and drugs. How can they have a negative impact on someone's mental health? What do you think? If you're on medication and you're taking alcohol and drugs, well, some alcohol and drugs can, change your mood. Alcohol and drugs change your mood. When your mood gets changed, your state gets changed, you can start thinking about maybe an experience and what you're going to do. You're going to start talking about that over. You're going to start thinking about that over. You're going to start playing those pictures in your mind over again. It's just like thinking about a bad situation you went through. And what happens? You start thinking about that bad situation. You've got that movie in your mind. You've got that image in your mind. You've got what they said to you. You've only got to start thinking about that and listening to it in your mind over and over, or watching that movie in your mind over and over. And guess what happens? Before you know it, you're in a state. And alcohol and drugs can lead you there. All right. So alcohol and drugs, if you're at college or university, or if you're at work and you're working somewhere, what's going to happen? You're not going to be able to concentrate. If you're at work and you're using machinery and you're not concentrating, what's going to happen? You're going to chop your fingers off if you're on the saw. If you're thinking about something and you're using machinery and you're stressed and you're taking alcohol and drugs with medication, you're a danger to yourself, and you're potentially a danger to other people as well. Also, alcohol and drugs can make you very, very secretive. Maybe you need some money. So what do you go and do? I know people that have done this. They've gone and stolen from their own family. Because they're going through these withdrawal symptoms and they need their next fix. Yeah, so what do? They go and steal. So, in terms of the negative impacts, especially when you mix them with medication, when you start mixing alcohol and drugs with medication, it will drastically change your mood. Alright? Now, obviously, if you take alcohol and you're in a happy mood and you think about happy things, that's fine. But if you take drugs and you have a flashback, so you've taken drugs and then you're on medication, you've taken drugs a few weeks down the line, you have a flashback, and it's not a good flashback, it's a bad flashback. You have a hallucination of something very, very negative that's happened to you, and that hallucination, because you haven't taken the drugs, and the hallucination is still in your mind, and it plays over and over, and it starts to control your mind with this flashback. What's going to happen? So these are some of the negative impacts of drugs and alcohol that can have on mental health. Alright, so when we're talking about from an employer's perspective or from a work perspective, we're talking about a positive. So sometimes we talk about a positive health and safety culture, a positive first aid culture. What about a positive mental health culture within the workplace? Yes, we're talking about the workplace, but it's not just applicable to the workplace, it can be applicable anywhere. So how about publishing or making a declaration within your organization to have a mental health policy? What about implementing an action plan for mental health? So you know someone's suffering within your organization. How about putting an action plan together for them to help them? How about learning to efficiently address certain issues within management very efficiently and recognize? How about communication with your employees openly about some of the issues that sometimes exist? I think that's a very, very good thing to do, to have a good line of open communication. I think having a mental health first aider and training within the workplace, it opens up avenues where people can contact you and they can communicate with you to feel that they are getting the support they need. Now, some years ago I went to a funeral of one of the young people that was working with me that died, and I gave a talk in front of 500 people. I gave a talk in front of 500 people about this young man. His mother wanted me to give a talk. I was working very closely with him, and I remember what I went through. And to be honest, because of the lack of support within that organisation that I was working with, I made a conscious decision on the inside that these people aren't looking after me. So what am I going to do? I'm going to find work elsewhere, because they weren't looking after me. And I went above and beyond for this person's family and for the company with helping out with those funeral arrangements. I went above and beyond But I didn't get the support I needed, and because I didn't get that support, I decided, what am I going to do? These people aren't looking after me, so what am I going to do? I left the organisation. And when I left that organisation, I gave them some feedback. And I felt really bad because I was suffering. Not only was I suffering, the young people that I was working with, they were suffering too as well, because they were going through a bereavement as well. So I supported them for a while. We went through the process of going through the funeral, and then sometime later on I decided to make the decision because I didn't feel supported. But that could have taken me right downhill. So, being aware of within an organisation how you can support not just the staff, but maybe your customers as well. So employees should start thinking about how they can self-educate. That's why I said to you earlier on, if you're an employee and you're looking for development, then you need to, communicate. All right. So also employees should positively talk about their feelings, raise their feelings with management, and make sure they have someone to talk to as well. Now, mental health first aid is not just for those guys who are mental first aiders nominated within the workplace. Just being there sometimes for someone. You might not have the qualification, but learn the skills of empathy and learn the skills of being able to be there for someone at their time in need. Now, when I was working with this organisation, I wasn't a mental health first aider, but I was there for the family. I was there for the learners. I was there for some of the staff. And I was there at the funeral. Believe me, it was very, very difficult, but it was a situation that I had to handle. I had to handle that situation. Otherwise, for the sake of the young people, they would have been suffering. Alright, so what is depression? Again, and we've talked about stress already. What is depression? Feeling down, low self-esteem. And I remember working with someone that we used to play pool, we did projects together. And he had a mental health condition. As I turned around, 3-4 balls had gone in. Now I couldn't be too competitive with him whilst working with him at that point, because he had very, very low self-esteem. What is anxiety? Do you feel anxiety? And how do you learn to deal with anxiety? Alright, you'll be learning about those things on the course when you come on board with us. As I say, Vikas Chopra, Excellence Training and Coaching. My number 07932 604 705. I'm here if you want to sort of come on, if you want to, if you want to come and speak to me, you can contact me. If you want to come and talk about something that maybe it's a trauma that you're going through and you want to have a communication, feel free to do so. That's okay as well. But this course here is invaluable, because I say people now, more than ever, because we're in the COVID time period, they are stopping at home. And what are they doing when they're stopping at home? Thinking. Probably not watching TV, or maybe watching too much TV, or maybe watching too much news, or not focusing on what they should be focusing on. Maybe going through the figures through their minds. Maybe going through those COVID figures constantly. That's probably what they're doing. Oh, someone who had the highest figures, the disease is more deadlier than it is, that we think it is. It's far more virulent. However, what can you do? What are you doing? What are you focusing on? What are you concentrating on? How are you going to strengthen I'm going to ask you this very, very clearly. How are you going to strengthen your immune system? How are you going to strengthen it? What are you going to do to strengthen your immune system? Have you looked at that as a possible great question? rather than thinking about those figures that are on TV. Oh, so many people are dying today. So many people end up in hospital today. Okay, who's talking about the guys that are recovering? Who's talking about those people? What are we hearing on the news constantly? And are we listening to it on a continuous basis? And where are we directing our questions? The questions are, my question to you is, and I would like to say to you is, how are you going to boost your immune system? Because sometimes we're asking and thinking about and playing those movies in our mind, and they're big and bright. We're playing those movies, or we're maybe listening to a lot of people's conversations, and we're playing those voices in our mind over and over. But what are you concentrating on right now to change the way you are thinking, to empower yourself, to make sure that your immune system, because health and vitality come from another aspect in life. They come from a positive state of mind. And have you got this positive state of mind? So what are you doing to get that? How are you progressing to boost your immune system via exercise, diet, and developing a positive state of mind? What are you doing to do that? And are you concentrating on that? Because that's what you should be doing. And I'll say that's what you should be concentrating on. So yeah, for today I've spoken to you quite a lot about mental health first aid. And what I'm going to say is that I want you guys out there to share this information because it's important. I want you to share it with other people. I want you to let other people know about what we can offer with regards to free qualifications if you're from the West Midlands areas. If you're not from the West Midlands areas and you would like to get in touch, please do. All right, I'll gladly have a conversation with you. If you want to have a one-to-one conversation, alternatively, gladly I'll have that communication with you. My number 07932 604 705. Now, thank you very much for listening in today. I want to say a big thank you for you guys who've listened in. If you haven't listened in and you're picking this up a bit later on, please share this information because it is out there and it's very important, and you need to start to take notice and maybe help someone that is near you. Maybe that you might be thinking, this course isn't for me. Perhaps you know someone that may need it, and I want you to focus on them as well. So tell someone, share this information. Information, good information, when you act on it, is like gold dust. Good information, once acted upon, will bear fruit. It will bear fruitage, and it will not just do that, it will bring you an output of empowering results. So thank you very much for listening today. Vikas Chopra. Give us some feedback if you want to. Communicate with us. We're here to give you the support you need. Ganshi Radio, thank you very much for allowing us to have this program, and I'm sure it'll aid people and help them develop. Thank you very much. Over and out, Vikas Chopra. Thank you again. Speak to you soon. I'll speak to you on Wednesday. I'll be back. Wednesday at 4 o'clock. Look forward to seeing you then, and then on a Saturday again. Thank you very much again. Bye-bye.